John Nord, and I wanted to show you a little short film this morning about how I do a gem cab. The cabs in the Gemstones don't have the pavilion on them and all the faceted cuts, so they don't sparkle, and they probably never will, like a multi-faceted cut pavilion gemstone. I'm not a trained gemstone setter, and I have set some, but I'm not that good at it. So I use cabs sometimes when somebody wants a topaz or something like that put into something. And if you just set that flat bottom cab into a bezel, it doesn't sparkle much, even if you drill a hole like they say you should to let the light come through. If it's a pendant or something, light don't really come through it anyway. And if it's a ring, it's down on your finger and there's not much light reflected through there. So they're just kind of a dead looking gem. Anyway, so I have a little trick here that I've been using, and I cut a faceted or a bright cut circular piece of silver to put below the cab in the bezel setting, and this makes it sparkle a little more. And I just wanted to show you that little trick. Some of y'all might could use it, some of you may not want to use it, but anyway, I'm going to show you that today. Okay, here I got a blue topaz cab, and it's got a flat bottom on it. It's kind of a half dome on top, or a dome on top with a flat bottom. It has some facets cut on the top, but nothing on the bottom. It's just flat. And these serve a purpose. I mean, you can set them in a bezel, and you know, they just don't sparkle like a regular gemstone with a pavilion and all the different facets that are cut on the bottom of the regular gemstones. Anyway, they look pretty nice, but they don't have that glistening sparkle to them, and that's what I'm after in this application. You can see here, nice blue color, but not much sparkle. A little bit, but not much. So what we're going to do is I came up with the idea that if I put a bright cut disc down on the bottom of this bezel cut, it'll be shining and sparkly up through that cab. And I just tried it out one day and it worked pretty good. So that's what I'm doing here, and I thought I would pass this tip along that somebody out there might could use it. And I'm going to put this in here. It's already got the disc in the bottom of it, and I'm just going to set it in here, and then I'm going to go to some still photos so you can see the different looks. That's the best way to look at it with a still photo. Now this is the disc that's got the bright cuts cut on it. It's a piece of sterling, and it goes in the bottom of the bezel, and I'll show you how to make that in a minute. And this is the gemstone set on top of that disc. The disc is down there in the bottom of the bezel, and you can see the sparkling coming through the gemstone. And here's another view of it. It really gives a really neat look to that cab that was so dull. Now I'm going to go to another picture here without the disc in it, and you'll see the difference. This one without the cuts in it, or without the disc under it, is just a blue color, kind of just dull and not any sparkle to it. So you can really see the difference there. And I know a lot of you probably noticed the picture when you started this video, and that was that same stone with the disc under it, and it really shines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of 22 gauge sterling silver, and I'm going to shine up the corner of it here to where I'm going to cut this disc out. I want it real shiny, so I'm just polishing it with my orbital tool. Then I take a template and I measure the bezel cup, and I see what size disc I want that will fit down in that bezel cup. And you don't want to make them real tight. And then I take a marker and I trace a circle around this template. And this is on top of the shiny part that I had polished earlier. Now we're going to take a center punch or an awl, and we're going to mark a hole or a point right in the center of the circle. And this is going to be our reference point to cut our bright cuts to. We're going to cut from the outside of this circle to the center of that point 360 degrees. And we're going to get a flat graver that's a bright cutter. You want your bright cutter highly polished, so these bright cuts shine real nice. And you want to go from the outside of the circle to the center point, 360 degrees. Now some of y'all would say, well, don't you have a jeweler's vise? Yeah, I have one, but this is kind of a simple procedure for me, and I'm just going to hold it here on my jeweler's saw jig, and I'm just going to bright cut this all the way around. But it would be better if you took the time to put it in some thermal lock and put it into your vise and just rotate it. But I'm trying to demonstrate here how these discs are made in a quicker fashion. And this works. I've done this before. It's a good way to get a poked finger though. Anyway, and here I am finishing up the bright cuts. I've got them all the way around. And the next thing I'm going to do is take a template, and I'm going to take that same template that I marked it earlier with, and I'm going to mark the circle again on top of these bright cuts, so I'll know exactly where to cut it out. So with that, it'll fit in my bezel. And like I say, you don't want them real tight. Now the gauge of material you use depends on your cab and your bezel cup. If you have a tall sides on your bezel cup, you can go with a thicker gauge material to cut your disc out of. If you don't have much room on the walls of the bezel cup and the taper of the cab, then you want to use say a 28 gauge or something thinner, because you may not have the room once it's raised up by this disc. But in this case I'm using 22 gauge. It's just going to be just about right for the slope of my cab to make it fit properly. And I'm just cutting around this outside of the line that I marked with a template. About got it cut out here. There we go. And then I'm going to take this disc and I'm going to put it down on a piece of sandpaper, and I'm going to sand the back of it to rough it up a little bit. Because once we have our bezel cup soldered onto our pendant or whatever you're putting it on, then we're going to glue this disc down in the bottom of it. But we're not going to glue it until we have all our soldering done, because the heat will mess the glue adhesive up. So I'm showing you here, you put the bezel cup on your pendant, you solder it down, and when you're finished with all your soldering, then you want to take a spot of this super glue and you want to put a drop down in the center of there, and you want to glue your disc with the bright sides up, of course, right there in the center of it, and that'll secure it in there. Now I've got this other one here, it's already been soldered and the disc has been glued into the bottom of it, and I'm going to show you here. I'm going to put this Gemstone cab down in it here and show you kind of how it looks. There we go. And then I just set it, and that's all there is to it. Okay, that was the little trick on the cab setting by putting that bright cut disc in the bottom of the bezel, and hope y'all can use that. Hey, be sure and subscribe to my channel and like my videos, and I'll try to keep bringing them out. Thanks.